I have been growing and managing a team of Filipino-based virtual assistants since 2017. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you everything that's working for me right now to find the best talent, screen out the people who are a waste of your time, and find a highly skilled worker who's able to commit 40 hours a week to work in your company. And it's going to cost less than $1,000 a month. All right, let's get into it. This is Dave's Toolbox, and today we're talking about online jobs. OnlineJobs is the name of the website, by the way. I've got a link in the description. Go ahead and click that. That helps support the channel. Now, the way this works is it's just like any other job board. You post a job opening for your company and people will apply. However, the applicants will all be based in the Philippines. Now, this comes with some pros and cons. The pros are that people in the Philippines are willing to work for a lot less money than they are in the United States. And that's because the cost of living there is a lot lower than it is here in the United States. And traffic in the Philippines is also horrendous. Half of your day can be eaten up traveling to and from work. So remote jobs are highly sought after. So there's no ethical concerns here. We're not mistreating anyone. This is a good wage for someone living in the Philippines starting out their career. One of the downsides, and something you might want to consider before going this route, is the fact that the Philippines has a 14-hour time difference. I typically don't make my team work my hours. I let them live a normal life, wake up when the sun shines, and go to sleep when the sun goes down. That also means that I'm checking in with them at the end of my day, just as they're beginning their day. And then vice versa. When I wake up in the morning, I check in with the team, see what they've accomplished for the day, and answer any last-minute questions that I can help out with. So if all of that is good with you, let me show you how to find a highly qualified VA for anything inside of your company. What could that job be? Well, it could be just about anything you can imagine. I've had good success with SEO, graphic design, video editors, web developers, you name it. It's generally very high quality work as long as you take the time to find the best candidates. More on that in a minute. Before we move on, I want to add that there is one category of Filipino worker I've not had great success with, and that is copywriters. Now, thankfully, we have chatbots to make things go a little bit smoother, but I think there is still some cultural divide between the Filipino adoption of English. It's not their primary language spoken there, but almost everybody learns English, and just what we expect out of copywriters here in the United States. Okay, so how does the job board work? Well, you can go ahead and just search for a candidate right here. I could look up graphic design, hit search, and I get a list of Filipino workers who are graphic designers and need a job. You can see if they're looking for full-time work, 8 hours a day, and what their monthly rate would be. Now, just like any other job opening, when you find a candidate that you want to hire, you don't have to pay them exactly what they're asking. You get to negotiate. So if you don't feel like this worker here is worth $880 a month, you can offer them a lower rate. And if you're unsure of what a fair salary is, OnlineJobs has you covered there. They put together a guide of what kind of a low, medium, and high rate is inside of each category of job. So you can see here a WordPress developer is going to go right around $630 per month. Project managers cost you a little bit more, around $850. Typically, project managers will work hours that are more congruent with yours and be much more well-spoken, able to communicate and text excellently. Okay, so one approach to hiring a VA is to search for the type of role you're trying to fill, look through the different profiles, and then just message people directly. We can open up a profile here, and I can contact someone right through this interface. But the way I tend to hire people is actually to post on the job board. Now, I'm going to show you exactly how I post jobs in a minute, but before we get into that, I should mention that in order to actually engage with VAs, you will have to have a paid subscription to OnlineJobs. So they do have a free account and you can post up to 3 jobs per month. But in order to talk to workers or hire a worker, you are going to need either the $69 a month plan or the $99 a month plan. Now, this is less expensive than you might think because typically what I do is I sign up for the annual plan, which drops it like up to 70% per year. So $350 a year for their top plan. To me, that's just a cost of doing business and making sure that we can take our time to hire VAs. I mentioned a little bit earlier in the video to take your time when you're hiring somebody. And that goes for any job. It's pretty rare that a company will have a job opening go up and then get filled within that same calendar month. But when people sign up for online jobs, they often get a bad experience because they're trying to cram the entire interaction inside of 1 month to avoid paying for a second $69 or $99. That's why I think just signing up for the annual plan, giving yourself as long as it takes to find the right candidate, is the more profitable move. I know some people recommend hiring quickly and then firing quickly with VAs. I'm kind of the opposite. I like to drag out the hiring process for quite some time. I'll talk more about why that is in a minute, but that's just another reason why having this annual subscription just makes me feel at ease. Like, okay, I'm getting my use from this software. It's not a waste of money, and I'm actually finding really high quality candidates because I'm not panicked in some kind of rushed mode to find the right person. This one's got to be it. You kind of get one-itis. You want to avoid that for sure. All right, so let's go through the actual process of finding a VA and hiring them. I'm logged into my account right now. To post a new job, I just click right up here where it says post a job. There's a little form to fill out, and then as soon as I fill this out, applicants are going to start flooding in within about 20 or 30 minutes. Considering this is being recorded at 7 p.m., means it's about 9 a.m. in the Philippines. People are looking for jobs at this time of day. I think people generally overthink filling out this job post. There's not really as much to it as some experts might lead you to believe. There are a few things that I do to help weed out bad candidates, but in general, my best advice is to just use natural language. A lot of VA communication is done via text messaging, so make sure that you're representing yourself inside of the job post just as you'd communicate with someone over the actual job itself. And then when a VA replies, or a potential VA, you want to gauge their ability to communicate with you via the written word because that's how you're going to communicate most often. You won't ever see them face to face, and it's pretty rare that you'll even have a voice call or a video call with them. Okay, so what are the things that matter when it comes to your job post? Well, I want to weed out anybody who's auto replying to just as many job posts as they can. So what I do is typically three things. First, I'll set a designated subject line. I'll say, don't email me directly, respond on online jobs, and use a specific subject line like dynamic WordPress developer. That way, if they don't respond with that subject line, I'll typically just archive that application. I don't even open it. If you want to be more thorough, you can open the application and mark that they did not follow the instructions. They'll get a notification then to know for next time not to waste people's time. The other thing I will do if I'm looking for something like a web developer is tell them to send me their 3 best websites. Instead, a lot of times people are going to send you a huge list of 45 websites, and who has time to go through each one of those websites and check them for quality? If I say send me 3, I mean send me 3, and they better not have broken links in them. If you're a web developer and you can't copy and paste a URL, you're probably not going to be a good fit inside of my company. So I'm very strict in this first screening process. Any signal that you give me in that initial screening process that you don't pay attention to detail, and you're out. The third thing I'll ask for, which I don't always get, is a resume. Now, if I'm interested in a candidate, they followed the subject line and they did the other requirements, such as mentioning their 3 favorite websites. Well, at that point, I will just write back and say, hey, do you have a resume? And typically they'll say, oh yeah, I forgot here. And then they'll send it along. But that's really the only one where I'll give them the opportunity to correct their mistake. Now, maybe I'm not being entirely accurate here because this is an example of a candidate who messaged a few weeks back. You can see this is on February 5th. And they said, I'm not going to list my 3 websites I've developed. Instead, they'll just put a portfolio link. Well, this at least tells me that they read the job description. They chose not to follow the directions, which is a little bit of a red flag, but I will at least click on the portfolio and check out the work that they've done. Now, in this case, he probably put a lot of time and effort into putting together this personal portfolio website, and he wanted me to check it out to see what he could do. So I think it kind of makes sense from his point of view to say, I'm not going to just send you links. I want you to see that I've actually put a lot of work into representing myself online. And I guess I can appreciate that. And you can see here that he also included his resume. So he did check all of the boxes. He just didn't do it exactly as I would have liked. Okay, so if I'm impressed with his work at this point, typically I will view his profile. So you can just click on their name up here, and that's gonna pop open their online jobs profile where you can see how much they're asking per month. This guy's asking $3 an hour or $528 a month. And you can see where they're located and also some kind of interesting information here, like any online IQ test they've taken. I'd say anything over 100 is typically excellent. But remember, the IQ test is in English, and that's not their primary language. So when I say there, I mean people in the Philippines, that's not their first language. Almost everyone learns English, but it's not the first language that they learn. A lot of people will also take personality tests, and you can see those listed here as well to see what their strongest traits are. Now, this section is all good and well, but what I pay most attention to is the employer reviews. And Kent here happens to have some really excellent employer reviews, which is pretty uncommon. You typically only see employer reviews when people are doing a poor job, and it's kind of a warning to other people, hey, don't hire these employees. And another kind of interesting side note, Online Jobs doesn't let them know that they got a negative response. So sometimes I will take a screenshot of the bad review and say, what's the deal with this? And I think I'm going to stop doing that because even if they talk me into hiring them, they almost are never a good fit. And that negative review was almost always warranted. So there are going to be instances where, you just had someone who was cranky and they expected more than was possible. But I think most of the time, the reviews are pretty helpful. Okay, the next thing I'll do is do the background check over here. You do have to have the upper level plan. You can see here the premium plan comes with background checks, but the pro plan does not. So basically, this link right here won't work if you don't have the pro plan. And this link is actually pretty important. Let me point out why. First of all, Online Jobs is going to verify that they are who they say they are. So having a 99 ID proof score says that this person is certainly a real human being. So that's a good start. It's not a scammer. They've verified his address. They've verified his email address. They've verified his phone number. They've verified his government ID. So very, very thorough. You can also see the last time they used software called TimeProof. Now, TimeProof is time tracking software that Online Jobs provides. I don't personally use it, but if one of my employees is using TimeProof, that's a signal to me that they're working two jobs and they're probably not giving me all of the effort that I'm paying for. So I can either approach them about it or just let them go and tell them, I have some evidence you're not doing your job. Typically, if I'm going to let them go, I already kind of know they're not doing their job well enough. There's also a section here that says jobs applied for, where you can see how often a certain person is applying for jobs. And in this box, it mentions that if you're looking for a job continually, they're typically going to be freelancers or maybe part of an agency that's actually a group of VAs trying to get as many jobs as they can. I don't like that. I want to have one person I can rely on, trust, get to know their style, and have a consistent flow of work. So I try to look for this, and I'll also occasionally take a look to see if any currently employed VAs are out there looking for other jobs. Now, there's nothing wrong with them looking for other jobs. However, it is a problem for me if they end up taking multiple jobs. You can also see their edit logs in terms of how often they've updated their profile. So this person last updated their profile December 18th, and they were doing a lot of tweaks that day. It looked like probably trying to get ready to find a new job. But before that, it had been almost a year before they did anything with their profile. I can also see what IP address they were using. So were they actually in the country they said they were in? So my next steps after investigating their profile, making sure they are who they say they are and that everything looks on the up and up, I'll typically just ask them a bunch of questions. You can see here, we went back and forth several times before I actually invited them over to our team communication tool to have a chat. And that is typically my very first step is I'll just get them right over onto my platform so that we can message. It could be something like your team Slack or whatever platform you use to do any sort of instant messaging. If you don't have one, go over to Skype or WhatsApp or whatever platform you can agree on. I will typically keep the chat fairly short initially, talk for maybe 15 to 20 minutes, just ask them about their previous work history, what they're interested in, what their family life is like, and I'll want to know important things like what kind of computer do you have? Do you have a stable internet connection? Because obviously you need to get online in order to be able to work reliably. If the chat goes well, I will typically extend an offer for a paid trial. If it's a job like a video editing job, I have several just trial projects on my hard drive. I'll simply upload one to them and tell them to send it back to me. For something like a web developer job for Kent here, I get him right into our project management tool, assign the tasks, and tell him how long I expect it to take. I usually budget anywhere from 16 to 24 hours, so 2 to 3 full working days, and assign 1 to 3 different tasks. I like to kind of mix and manage the tasks as much as possible. Sometimes I'll just ask him to explain, how would you do this? And other times I will say, actually accomplish this. Let me see the end result, whatever makes the most sense in the instance. But by the end of those 2 to 3 days, it's usually pretty clear to me whether or not someone's going to be a good long-term fit. Now, in Kent's case, something unusual happened. After I offered him the trial job, his grandfather passed away, and he needed a week off to travel to his grandfather's burial and come back before he could begin the trial task. Now, typically in the past, this has been a pretty clear signal to me that someone's trying to kind of pull one over on me. But with Kent, I'd seen all of those positive reviews. I really didn't think that was the case. So I gave him the benefit of the doubt and gave him the week off. He returned and started working right away. His first day of work was very high quality. And then the second day of work, he had a power outage. His internet was no longer available to him. So what's he supposed to do? He took a day off and he returned to work the next day. He did another high quality day of work. And then the day after that, he had a computer issue where his power supply went out. Okay, so he had to go out and get a new power supply. Work was interrupted that day as well. So now we have had a delay from a burial, which is obviously an unfortunate event. And we've also had 2 days off related to technology and power outages. So after his trial tasks were over, I was faced with a decision. His work was very high quality. However, there were those reliability issues. So what I did was say, hey, I can't quite trust you yet. How about another trial week? So that's what we're doing right here. Kent is beginning his second trial week right now, which is basically to show you that you can make up the rules. Do what feels good, do what makes sense, and trust your gut. When people show you the type of worker they are, listen to them. Don't ignore those factors. Every time something happened that caused Kent not to be able to work reliably, he did let me know right away. I wasn't left guessing, hey, where is Kent? So that goes a long way, which is part of the reason I gave him the second trial week. Now, will Kent's reliability turn around this week? That's yet to be seen. So at the end of the week, I'll decide whether or not he's going to be offered a full-time position. So in a nutshell, that is how I find and hire VAs using OnlineJob.ph. If you have any questions about building your own virtual assistant team, leave me a comment down below. I'd be glad to answer any questions based on my own experiences. My name is Dave Swift. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.